All right, welcome back to Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. I'm joined by my special guest, Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Glad to be here talking with you, man.
All right, man. You're a wealth of information. I really appreciated you the last time you were on, and I think we had the same crew from the last time you were on. And my special co-host here, Ruth the Truth. How you doing, Ruth?
I'm doing well. Today's been full of events, and I was having a really great day until I saw the news of DeMarcus Lawrence out indefinitely for the remainder of the season. Wow. So that kind of put a damper on my day, but you know what? It's all good.
Yeah, there's still a lot of football to be played. So we've got week 1 in the books, or the evaluation week is in the books. So we can kind of focus on, there's film on all of our teams out there now to kind of look at. So this is good, man. We're getting into week 2, and I want to start with you in Atlanta. Last week, when you were watching this game, what are you looking for? Because I know that, I think we talked, and your expectations are kind of, let's see what we have on this team. And, for you, what did you take away from this team, good and bad?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to glean in that week 1 game. The big concern, at least from a con standpoint, was, the concern was, can the Falcons offensive line hold up against that Eagles defensive line and that Eagles pass rush? And we saw that they could not. And so that was very troubling, and they're going to have to play much, much better over these next couple of weeks as they face, a very good Bucs defensive front this week. We know this Bucs defensive front has had a history of kicking the butts of the Falcons offensive line in some previous matchups with guys like Shaq Barrett and Vita Vea. So I'm not necessarily looking forward to seeing that. Obviously, we got to see that Falcons offensive line play better, but it was nice to see the Falcons running game get off to a very fast start in that Eagles game. You got to see Mike Davis and Cordero Patterson look pretty good in that first quarter of that game. And so, I kind of went into the season kind of expecting the Falcons to be a little bit more one-dimensional and relying heavily on their passing game to be able to move the ball, but to have more of a balanced attack. That was some positives for me. So, when you look at this Falcon team, disappointing week 1 performance, but they didn't play their starters in the preseason, so we'll just count it as they were getting their preseason action in 4 quarters in week 1, as opposed to over the course of 3 games in August. So we'll say this week is the real Falcons will sort of show up, and we'll use that to determine sort of how much improvement they make from week 1 to week 2, and whether or not this team can get their act together, I guess, deal with some of the adversity that they dealt with in that week 1 game, and rise up, as it were, for the Falcons.
So for week 1 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they obviously shut down the run game for the Dallas Cowboys, which was probably going to be their strong point when you have Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard carrying the football. Now, Patterson had an exceptional game against the Eagles. Do you think that it's going to be a kind of a run scheme when it comes to the Bucs this coming Sunday?
Yeah, my expectation is yes, to answer your question. But I'm curious to see if they kind of throw a wrinkle, throw a curveball there. But my expectation is that the Falcons, given the concerns that they have with their offensive line's ability to hold up against a Bucs front, if they get into a straight drop back passing game, I think they're going to come out and try to be balanced. In the first half of the Eagles game, they had 18 called runs to 18 called passes. And that continued pretty much into the third quarter as well. And really only in the fourth quarter, when it became where they had to start throwing the ball to get back into the game, was where really the flaws on the offensive line really got exposed. So I think the Falcons are going to kind of borrow that same blueprint and try to run the ball. Obviously, I think the side benefit of that is if you can run the football and control the clock and possess the ball, that keeps the Bucs offense off the field. We know this Bucs offense seems to be firing pretty much on all cylinders. Someone told me today this is 9 straight games of them scoring 30-plus points. Basically, since they got shut out in that first half against the Falcons last year in Week 15, they just been dropping 30 burgers every single week. So I don't know if the Falcons can get into a shootout given the concerns they have on the offensive line. So I do think the running game is going to be a key component of their game plan. But then again, Arthur Smith may basically zig when we expect him to zag, given that he's a new head coach. There's not a whole lot of film on this Falcon team, so he could catch a team like Tampa Bay, off guard if he decides to come out and air it out early in the game.
So when you're looking at this running game, and it's while we're on the subject, with Cordero Patterson coming in, were you expecting him to play as big a part as he played last week, or are they still evaluating who's going to be the starter or who's going to carry the load as the season progresses? I mean, from what you took away from it, for me watching that game, I saw where he had the hot hand and they kind of stuck with Cordero Patterson, and they kind of had balance between the two, but it looked like Cordero Patterson took advantage of his opportunities a little bit more so.
Yeah, and when you look at Cordero Patterson these last couple of years, because it's really started in 2018 when he was with the Patriots, where they started to make the transition from being a wide receiver / kick returner to a running back / kick returner. And, he did that in New England that year, in the last 2 years in Chicago. And when you look at his time as a runner, like there weren't that many games where he was getting more than like 3 or 4 carries a game. So that was kind of my expectation, that you would see him get 3 or 4 carries. And that was one of the reasons why the Falcons wound up picking up Wayne Gallman off waivers at the end of training camp. Gallman was with the Giants the last couple of years, played really well in the second half of last season, filling in for an injured Saquon Barkley. And it was clear to me that, the Falcons maybe had some concerns about that depth behind Mike Davis. So I was not expecting Cordero Patterson to be a huge part of the offense, but he did come out, as you say, playing really well. He was probably, the biggest positive from the game. If you were going to give a game ball to anybody, you would probably give it to Patterson from last week. For the Falcons. So, that was a surprise. I think as the season wears on, they're going to try to get Gallman a little bit more integrated. So we may not see as much as Patterson, a month or two from now, once Gallman gets up to speed, as we saw in week 1. But I think until then, you're going to continue to see Patterson be a significant part of this Falcons offense.
Do you think that people are being a little bit too tough on Matt Ryan? Because after the performance that he put on, throwing for what I believe 164 yards, didn't have a lot of completions, struggled in the red zone. People are kind of, saying that they should have used that 4th pick to pick up a quarterback. Do you think people are jumping the gun too soon on Matt Ryan and his future with the Falcons?
Yes and no. I will say, I think you can be a little bit too harsh on Matt Ryan's performance from the week 1 game. I feel like pretty much all the issues the Falcons had, particularly throwing the ball, were on the offensive line's inability to hold up in pass protection. And it really wasn't a whole lot that Matt Ryan could do given those circumstances. But I do think it is legitimate that you can call into question whether or not, the Falcons, if they can't start winning games, should be married to Matt Ryan beyond this season. I think that is going to continue to be a question as long as the Falcons aren't getting W's, where you have basically, when you look at Matt Ryan's contract this year, next year, and in 2023, the last year of his contract, he's counting at this point 20% of the Falcons salary cap. And if you're not getting results on the field, why are you paying a quarterback that type of money? And that's not a shot at Matt Ryan and his ability. He's proven over the last 13 years that he is one of the better quarterbacks in this league. He's potential Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, given his overall body of work. But at this point in time, if the Falcons are in a position, and based off of their week 1 performance, we'll see how they fare as the season unfolds. But if they're in a position where, they're going to wind up being have another losing season, which would mark 7 out of the last 9 years where the Falcons have not had a winning season or not made the playoffs, it doesn't make a lot of sense to continue to pay Matt Ryan the money that they're paying if you're not getting results on the field. And that's no slight on Matt Ryan's performance and his ability. It's just the way that NFL works. You look at Phillip Rivers, the final year that he was in with the Chargers, they had missed the playoffs 7 out of the previous 9 years, and they wound up drafting Justin Herbert and moving on from Phillip Rivers at that point. You look at Eli Manning, 6 out of the last 8 years, which is an accomplishment the Falcons just achieved this past year. 6 out of the last 8 years, they haven't made the playoffs. Same thing with the Giants before they wound up drafting Daniel Jones and turning the page on Eli Manning. And so the way that the NFL works, you know, from an economic standpoint, financially, whatever the case may be, if you're not getting results on the field, they will replace you. And it doesn't matter how good you are or were. If you're not winning, you know, everybody's expendable.
Yeah. So you personally, do you think they should have made a move on Matt Ryan after last season's performance?
No, I don't necessarily think they should have moved on from Matt Ryan last year. I think, you know, if you're asking me what I think they should have done, I think they should have taken the quarterback at number 4. I think they should have taken Justin Fields at number 4. That's in part due to my very high opinion of Justin Fields as a player, and due to the fact that I think, you know, that was a golden opportunity. I thought it was a 4 quarterback draft, you know, and Justin Fields fell into their lap. You know, no slight at Mac Jones, the 5th quarterback in that draft, but like, you know, I felt like that was a golden opportunity that you probably, or you hoped that you would never be picking that high again for a very long time. So secure the quarterback. I think part of it is when you look at the last decade of the Falcons' history, really starting with that decision to trade up for Julio Jones back in 2011, they have by and large been a team trying to find those last couple of pieces to get over the hump to be that team that can be consistently a Super Bowl contending team. Obviously, as I just discussed, they haven't necessarily been able to get those results on the field. Obviously, they had that one year where they should have been a Super Bowl winning team, but it's one of those things where, like, I feel like you've spent 10 years trying to do that. You know, I think continuing down that path, for me personally, doesn't make a ton of sense, because it's just time. You got a new regime. You had a golden opportunity with the potential franchise quarterback. You could turn the page and move on from that direction. And again, no slight to Matt Ryan. Enjoyed the last 13 years, but it's, you know, I feel like all good things come to an end at a certain point. And this past offseason was a golden opportunity for the Falcons to turn that page. They chose not to do that. I'm not necessarily saying that they made a mistake, but it is going to be a conversation that's going to keep getting brought up, particularly if the Falcons don't get results on the field. People are going to sit here and say, you know, if you know, for example, if the Falcons wind up winning, you know, 6 games this year, people are going to sit here and say, like, you could have gotten a quarterback and, you know, won 6 games. You know, it's just one of those things where it's going to continue to be a conversation. And unfortunately for Matt Ryan, he's going to be at the heart of the conversation. And I think a lot of the perception is going to be that it's a slight at him, but it's just, you know, the nature of the beast. As I said, if you're not winning games, then, you know, people are going to point fingers. The quarterbacks get all the credit for winning. They get all the blame for losses. You know, that's not changing anytime soon.
Right. Maybe they were trying to avoid like a Packers situation where you're going to draft high, get Jordan Love, and then have Aaron Rodgers, you know, fuming. But I mean, it worked out for them because he had an MVP caliber season. So maybe they could have gotten a quarterback to kind of light some fire under Matt Ryan's butt to get him to, you know, fight for his job.
I don't think that Matt Ryan is built like Aaron Rodgers. I think their mentalities are different. I think Matt Ryan's more of a team-oriented person as opposed to what we're seeing from Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think they're built the same. I don't think that would have been the scenario if you drafted Justin Fields and you have Matt Ryan, who he can learn from, because eventually how old is Matt Ryan right now?
36.
So eventually you have to be putting a plan together to move on from Matt Ryan at some point, just because of his age and how the NFL goes. When I looked at, I was watching the draft and I was shocked that they went and they picked a tight end, especially a tight end that high. And you can look at OJ Howard and the fact that OJ Howard was picked at 19, and because of injuries and different regime changes and all these other things, he just hasn't lived up to what we thought he would be. And I just value now, just with everything that's been happening in the NFL, I value the quarterback position so much more, and having a good quality quarterback that can fit into the right scheme can be nothing but success if you work it correctly.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know, again, and we've been talking about the Atlanta Falcons offense. I do want to kind of switch to defense. If you and Ruth, I'm going to start with you talking about the Bucs offense, and what were some of the things that you were taking away from that?
I don't know why everyone's jumping on the Mike Evans needs to be traded train. I think that's a little absurd. I mean, we all
Please
know
do.
that Mike Evans isn't the best route runner. That's never been his forte. I mean, I always thought Chris Godwin was a way better route runner than Mike Evans. But I mean, Tom Brady has a lot of weapons to throw to. So they have a great run scheme. They have a great, backfield when it comes to the pass catcher and all that. So I'm looking forward to the Buccaneers offense against a beat up Falcons defense right now.
I hope you guys trade Mike Evans. Please do that. Please.
So
get rid of him.
He's not going nowhere.
So what did you take away from the defense as far as the Atlanta Falcons defense?
Yeah, I think the defense, obviously you look at the scoreboard, they gave up 32 points. I think but I don't think, sort of at face value, you look at that and you say, oh, well, the Falcons defense did not play well. And certainly, you got to play better. Obviously, you're not playing great defense if you're giving up 32 points. But I think the Falcons defense did show some positive things. And certainly in the second half of that game did get enough stops of that Eagles offense to get the Falcons offense an opportunity to get back in the game. Unfortunately, Falcons offense didn't take advantage of those opportunities. So I think that's the positive that you have coming away from the defense. For me, the concerns with the defense was that I thought that the Falcons played a little bit more conservatively than I expected. I thought they were going to be a little bit more aggressive, trying to, attack Jalen Hurts, given some of the issues that he had a year ago when he was a starter, which was tendency to hold on to the ball a little bit too long. And I thought the Falcons would be aggressive with their blitzing in order to try to speed up his process and see if they could have him make mistakes. But I think kudos to the Eagles offense. I think their game plan was to use the short and quick passing game to sort of get the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands quickly. And I think they were very effective at attacking the Falcons offense in that manner. And I don't think the Falcons were sort of as aggressive playing the press coverage and all these various things to try to disrupt the timing of that Eagles offense. So I think that was my main concern from the Falcons defense. We kind of knew going into the season that the Falcons are not going to be a team that is going to have a great pass rush. And so they were going to rely heavily on their blitz in order to supplement that pass rush. And there were a couple of plays in that game where they were able to get home, but unfortunately, because of Jalen Hurts' mobility, he was able to sort of escape the pocket and create with his legs. And so that was also a contributing factor to why the defense may not have looked as good as they potentially could have been. So, going into this week 2 game, I'm kind of hoping that the Falcons throw the whole kitchen sink at Tom Brady. Tom Brady's 44, been in the league for 22 years. There's nothing the Falcons going to dial up that he hasn't seen. And more than likely, odds are being he's going to be able to, with those weapons that he has, including, the tradable Mike Evans, he's going to be able to carve out this Falcons defense. But at the same time, look, they're the defending Super Bowl champions. People, the Bucs are favored by 2 scores in this game, at least according to the bets. And so you might as well give them your best punch. And just, blitz the crap out of Tom Brady and see, how they deal with it. And if they, drop 40 points on you, like that's not going to surprise anybody. They probably would just drop 40 points on you if you just went with a conservative game plan to begin with. So might as well, live by the sword, die by the sword, as they say, and dial up a lot of blitzes. So I'm hoping we see that from the Falcons defense this week.
Yeah, another question that I had, and because I watched both games, I watched the Atlanta Falcons game because I knew that we would be facing your team, and the one thing that I came away with was I expected to see more exotic blitzes. I expected them to manufacture more of a pass rush, and you just did not see that. And is that something that you can put back on like the defensive coordinator, or is that the way this defense is built, or are we still just kind of in a wait and see to really see what this Falcons defense really is?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because I don't know the answer. I don't know, were they holding back on the blitz because they were concerned about Jalen Hurts' running ability and they wanted to not necessarily, give him opportunities, give him lanes, as we saw in that game, where if a guy comes off the edge and misses the tackle, he's sprinting 20 yards down the field, as we saw on a couple of plays there. So I don't know if that's why the Falcons held things back, because essentially all the rhetoric that we've heard from their defensive coordinator, Dean Pease, and all the indications that we saw in what little we saw of this defense in the preseason was that they were going to be aggressive. They were going to throw a lot of different blitzes at teams, and blitz from everywhere is how Dean Pease determined it. So that was a little surprising to not see that dialed up really to a high degree against Philadelphia. So, my hope is that maybe the reason why they weren't doing that is simply because getting back to a point where they didn't play in the preseason that much, the starters at least. And so they were kind of feeling things out. Guys are still sort of learning this scheme and figuring things out. And so he didn't necessarily want to throw too much at them. That's my hope. But, I think you kind of played into the Eagles' favor by sort of sitting back and being a little bit too conservative. So I hope that changes in week 2.
Yeah. And, it's kind of getting over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we didn't really get to see a lot of the running game because of turnovers. And so that basically you saw Tom Brady and you saw Chris Godwin, you saw Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski. You saw a lot of them. I think there are a lot of weapons that, the Bucs have at their disposal that we just have not seen yet. It's looking like Ronald Jones will be the starter against the Atlanta Falcons. And, I'm hoping that he has a better game. How do you feel like this team can do against the run? Because you have Leonard Fournette and you have Giovanni Bernard, who we got to see a little bit of in the fourth quarter. Not just a kind of a sample size. You didn't really get to see as much as I would have expected, but you will start to see a little bit more, I'm sure, from the Bucs this week of that running game. So are the Atlanta Falcons equipped to handle the run, or have you seen enough of them to determine if they are or not?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a good litmus test, because I think some of the issues they had stopping the run, like Philadelphia didn't really run the ball all that much, at least early in the game. But when they did find some success. And I think some of that is owed to the sort of those read option concepts that they were utilizing with Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders at the mesh point. And I don't think the Falcons did a great job reading that and playing disciplined on those plays, and that led to some big games for both Hurts and Sanders. And I'm curious to see how they fare against a more traditional running team like Tampa Bay is likely to be, where you're not going to see Tom Brady doing those read option fakes. I would love to see him try, but I don't think we're going to see that from this offense this week. So I think this week is going to give you a good litmus test to see really if this Falcons team can rely on their run defense. So far I haven't seen anything that really gives me a ton of optimism that they're going to be able to shut down the Bucs run game. But at the same time, I do think, there's a chance that this is a game where it'll be more their style of play. And so this is an opportunity for them to show what they have.
Yeah, that offensive line with the protection that they have for Brady, with the protection and the gaps that they open up for Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, it's going to be a test for the Falcons. And I mean, I didn't see anything last week that kind of made me feel optimistic about how the Falcons are going to perform when it comes to protecting the run. But who is there any player that, that stands out to you that think is going to be the leader for your defense this year?
Yeah, I mean, Grady Jarrett's the guy. He's the guy. And, I think the thing that if you're a Bucs fan that you like to see is over these last couple of years when it's come to the Falcons' ability to pressure quarterbacks, it's always been sort of spearheaded by Grady Jarrett. And that's owed to the Falcons not necessarily having is sort of the best, I guess you call them complementary guys, and a lot of edge rushers that they've invested in haven't quite lived up to the billing there, and that's owed to that. But basically, when the Falcons can generate a pass rush, it's usually because Grady Jarrett has a big game. But where I think Bucs fans can be optimistic is in the past, guys like Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa, among others, have generally played well against Grady Jarrett and his Falcon team. And so if you can get another really solid performance from that Bucs offensive line, and we certainly know that they're capable of doing that. They've been showing that over the last year or more. then that's going to really sort of stymie a lot of what the Falcons are going to want to do up front. So, it's really paramount that the Falcons can get Grady Jarrett going. Typically, you might see maybe one of these Falcons-Bucks games where Grady Jarrett can sort of get going and really help this Falcons defense be that disruptive team against the run, as well as generate that pressure, particularly with a player like Tom Brady, a quarterback like Tom Brady, where he's not going to move around that much. And so if you can get that pressure up the middle, that can really disrupt his ability in a lot of ways. So, a key for the Falcons is going to be getting Grady Jarrett going. And of course, a key for the Bucks is going to be able to slow him down.
So that's a great question in the comments. They said, who do you double? Evans, Godwin's, AB, Gronk? What do you think the defense should focus on when it comes to those 4 players that we just named?
Yeah, man, this is what makes playing the Bucks so hard. I remember last year, even before the Bucks really got their groove going, before they went to the Super Bowl, is those December matchups, and looking at this team and saying, like, if they don't figure it out by the end of this season, which they ultimately did, next season is going to be such a problem for other teams because of all the weapons that they wind up having. So I don't think you really can double anybody. You just sort of hope your guys can handle their individual matchups. I think, I'm not going to sit here and say I think the Falcons secondary is going to be able to shut down this group by any means, but I think there were some positive signs from this secondary, particularly the cornerbacks in that week 1 game. I thought Fabian Moreau, their new starter, opposite AJ Terrell, their first round pick last year, played really well. AJ Terrell in the week 15 game against the Bucks, when he was being asked to shadow Mike Evans, did not play well in that game. But in the week 17 game, when he was just basically parked on the left side of the field, he pretty much shut down that side of the field. And in that week 17 game, you saw the Bucks really feature Antonio Brown in a lot of ways, going to the opposite side of the field. And he wound up, I think, scoring that game-winning touchdown in that game, I believe. And so, I think we saw AB have a big week 1 game, and that's the scary thing about this Bucks offense is you often get AB going up against another team's 3rd best corner. And so, it's just an impossible team to deal with. And you just kind of hope that, you get some drops like we've seen this team do. You just kind of hope the football gods are on your side, and somehow these guys maybe woke up on the wrong side of the bed and maybe not are at tip-top shape or whatever the case may be. But there's just too many weapons there in Tampa Bay, and you couple that with all the other things that they have going for them. It's ridiculous. And obviously, I'm in my feelings about it, but it is what it is.
So a lot of Bucks fans were expecting pretty much a blowout in the Thursday night opener against the Dallas Cowboys, and we saw anything but. So did that give you a little bit of hope of, the Falcons Bucks week 2 matchup?
I mean, I think you always have some hope with these divisional games. They're always a lot closer than people think. But there wasn't anything in that game that I haven't seen before that I'm like, oh, the Dallas was able to do this against the Bucks. I think the one thing that you're hoping for is the turnovers, right? We saw that be an issue for the Bucks in week 1. You're hoping that the Falcons have not been a team that's known for generating turnovers, so that would be a welcome change, given these last couple of years where that has been an issue that they've struggled with. So it would be nice to see this team, and that's part of the reason why I hope they're going to be a little bit more aggressive defensively in order to try to help create some of those turnovers. So I think the only thing that you look at that week 1 game is the Tampa Bay turned the ball over a bunch, and you hope that repeats this week. If it does, that gives the Falcons a better chance of winning. Hopefully they won't do what Dallas did and struggle in the red zone and convert in those opportunities. And if Dallas does that, they probably wind up winning the game. And we saw the Falcons struggle in the red zone in their week 1 matchup. So that's going to be something they're going to have to fix as well. So we'll see.
Yeah. And the one thing that I can say, and I kind of going back to the refs again, I don't care whose team whose team it is. The refs have just been so inconsistent. They've just been a problem for everyone. I don't care what your team is. I saw a few questionable penalties on both sides of the ball for Atlanta. The Eagles, it just has not been consistent for anybody. And I think that in itself creates another problem, within the scheme of the game itself. So that's another thing that you kind of have to kind of keep your eye out on, keep your eye on as well.
So Matt Ryan is 0-5 against Tom Brady, of course, including that horrible loss in the Super Bowl.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Do you think this is kind of haunting Ryan a little bit that he's going up against Tom Brady?
I mean, I don't see how it couldn't. You feel like at some point you got to get one of these victories. Unfortunately, I don't know if this is the one time I feel like the Falcons had much better opportunities to get that first victory against Tom Brady back when he was with the Patriots. And we saw in that Week 15 game last year where they got off to that 17-0 lead. They had a golden opportunity, and obviously they couldn't hold on to that. Oh, the Falcons blowing a lead! What a surprise! But I think at some point you got to think it's going to happen. But I don't know if this week is going to be that point. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For Matt Ryan's sake, I hope he can retire with at least saying, "Hey, I beat Brady at least once in the regular season." So
yeah,
Brady's crossed for him.
A couple of years, he'll be 48, still hanging on. Eventually he'll be playing at 50. Eventually Father Time's going to catch up to him. So maybe Matt Ryan's got a shot.
Yeah. So, I mean, physically, do you feel comfortable with Matt Ryan for the next 3-4 years? Is this something you could potentially see?
I mean, it's possible. But if they can't win, I don't see it happening. I feel like if they have a losing season right now, if you ask me, I think Matt Ryan obviously will finish out this season in Atlanta. I think he'll be there next year, but beyond that, I don't necessarily see it right now unless this team can start winning games. So yeah, right. And again, obviously I'm basing too much on the week one performance.
Yeah.
And until we start seeing this team play better, then I can be a little bit more optimistic about Matt Ryan's long-term future. But, again, so far just haven't seen enough from this team going back to what we talked about to justify paying all that money when you're not getting results on the field. So right now I feel like Matt Ryan will be here for 2 more years, or this year, next year. But beyond that, I feel like it's very much up in the air.
All right. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate you. I mean, you're open, honest, and I've had people on and they're like totally slanted or one-sided, but that's why I appreciate you, because you like to talk football, regardless of what the team is or who the team is. So, and your knowledge of the game is greatly appreciated as always.
Well, before we say bye to him, can you give us a game that over the weekend kind of wowed you, or anything that stands out to you for week one of the NFL?
Well, maybe it's recency bias, but that Monday night game was pretty fun between the Ravens and Raiders, just how it ended and going back and forth, and teams blowing leads at the end of the games. It was very familiar to me as a Falcon fan. So, it's one of those things that was very fun to see other teams experience the life of a Falcon fan, of watching your team blow leads, incredulous leads at the end games, being at the 1.5 yard line and still not being able to get the ball into the end zone in overtime. That is incredible stuff. And I'm like, you see, this is what it feels like. If you're Raiders fans, Ravens fans, you get a taste of what the yearly life of an Atlanta Falcon fan is. It's just nothing but misery. And hopefully we're just waiting. The Bucs went through 15 years without a lot of success. So,
bad. It was because we were on the same show. I remember, I think we were on the show together when the Bucs were like, they only won 1 game, I think.
Yeah. There was a couple of Lovie Smith years that were real rough.
And it was bad. And we were all on there, and we were, I was like, they can turn it around, and they will turn it around eventually. And, I was like you, I talked about, hey, the offensive line is horrible. The secondary is not good. There are all these penalties, but eventually, it does. That's kind of the ebb and flow of the NFL. And it just, it's a labor of love. If your team is losing and they're not doing good. And I remember, that's why, I'm not going to get harsh with anybody, because I went through it and it was miserable. I mean, those 5-win seasons, and, you got a team that's underperforming, and you've got to sit here and deal with that all season. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel your pain.
There you go.
We've all been there.
All right. Well, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. You're, like I said, you're a great follow. I mean, you follow all the games, and it's cool to get your commentary on other games out there. And so, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, of course, you can find me every day on the Locked On Falcons podcast, Monday through Friday, talking Falcons. So if you want to, take a deeper look, if you're Bucks fans trying to reminisce about the old days where you had a questionable football team, go check out the Locked On Falcons podcast to hear somebody complain about the football team that they cover. Of course, people can find me on Twitter at FalcFans. That's FalcFans. And putting up getting back into the habit of writing again over at the Falcoholic, the SB Nation website. There should be a column up this Friday talking about this Falcons Bucks matchup and sort of looking at some of the things we talked about tonight in terms of what are some of the things we're going to learn about this Falcons team in terms of what improvements they make from week 1 to week 2. So go check that out. And enjoy the success, Bucks fans, because Tom Brady's going to be in a walker soon, and I don't know how much you guys have a history of Jameis Winston, Josh Freeman, some of these guys. So I appreciate Tom Brady for your sake. I don't know how long it's going to last.
He brought them a Super Bowl, so what else could they want?
Yeah, he
made them relevant again.
I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can. Trust me.
Absolutely, you guys. I won't say you guys deserve it, but yeah, I'll say you guys deserve it. You guys went through a lot of rough stuff.
You already know it was painful week in and week out. I would get on with everybody in the NFC South was doing good, but the Bucks at some points, and it was just like I still got to get up here and represent the Bucks, and we did, and again I made some real good friends, from that. I enjoy talking football, so again, thank you so much, man. I'm gonna let you go ahead and get on out of here, and hopefully I can get you back on for the game in Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, man. You have a good one.
Have a good night, Aaron.
Good night.
All right. That was Aaron.
I like talking to like real people, like realism, not somebody who is a fan bandwagoner who just wants to be like, oh, we're on a Super Bowl run. Like he keeps it real. He knows exactly what the Falcons are working with right now. And he's a great follow. So everybody please go follow Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. He knows football. I mean, we were chatting back and forth on Sunday, and just with some of the plays and some of the games that were going on. I think I'm gonna give me 2 TVs or something like that, because it's kind of hard to keep up with all the stuff that was going on. I like Red Zone, but I like to watch the game and watch the play happen as the game is going on. So
right.
I don't know.
So I definitely wanted to talk to you about this, Gene, about your opinion on Jameis Winston and his performance against the Green Bay Packers. Because I talked to Christina, and obviously she's been a longtime Bucs fan as well, and she's gone through the Winston era. Do you still see old Jameis in the Jameis Winston that we see now wearing a New Orleans Saints fan and a New Orleans Saints uniform?
As I said it at the beginning of the show, this is week 1. A lot of people overreact one way or the other. For me, it's just evaluation. We've got film on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on what they did good, what they didn't do good. And you just kind of have to go from there. You had a quarterback that could get the ball out to 3 quality receivers at one point or another. And so that was a close game. When I look at that New Orleans Saints game, I look at a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who looked dejected. He looked like he didn't want to be there. He looked like he was not into it. And I keep hearing about their receiver being the number 1 receiver in the NFL, and you saw no signs of that. I looked at their running game, and like I said, New Orleans came out that game and on firing on all cylinders. So yeah, that was a good game. That was a good week 1 game. You got 4 quarters of football from your first team. Yeah, that's good. Let's see where we are in week 6. Let's see where we are week 7. Let's progress a little bit, because the beginning of the year, you've got contenders and you've got pretenders. And you just kind of have to let it roll out and see what happens. Injuries can occur. A lot of things that could go on. The one thing that I will say when it comes to Jameis Winston, I still question the decision-making. You didn't see it in this game, and I think that they had a foolproof game plan. They came out and punched Green Bay in the mouth, and Green Bay didn't respond to it. and that's just what it was. That was week 1. So
Just 38-3 though. I was kind of like, I was in shock, honestly. Like, I did not expect the Green Bay Packers to have such a poor performance offensively, and I mean defensively as well, for all that matters. And the change that I saw with Jameis was, I feel like Winston finally realized that you don't have to throw the ball every single time. You have 4 downs. Take
right.
it easy. If you get 15 yards of open space, run the ball. I mean, I think he rushed for like 80 yards that game. Like, he ran the ball himself a lot that game, which I think is a huge, huge switch up from what we're used to seeing when it comes to Jameis Winston.
Yeah. Again, 100%. He had a great game. He played a great game, 5 touchdowns. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there's 17 games in a season now, or 16. I should say 16 games in a season now. Um, I just like I said, I don't know what you have here. This is a sample size, and it remains to be seen what he's going to do. If he's playing at this high of a level, week 7, consistently, then you can say that. But we've seen Jameis Winston have flawless games in Tampa where he just plays lights out, no mistake-free football. He just does it, and then the next game you see him, and I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Well, they have New Orleans is going to be traveling. No, actually, we're playing the Saints in New Orleans on October 31st, which is Halloween.
Yeah.
I applied for a credential for that game because Christina and I are planning on going to New Orleans. Well, ever since the hurricane happened, we don't really know how quick the cities.
That's where I'm at. I don't want to go there and they just experience something like that. And keep in mind too, we're still in hurricane season, so
exactly.
It's definitely something to keep in mind in the back of your head when you're planning for stuff like that.
Right. So, but we are going to be playing them, and it's going to be week 8 after they come off the road, after they play Seattle. So, yeah, like you said, we got to see how Winston is going to develop throughout the season, how he's going to adjust to Peyton's offense. But I mean, week 1, he looked great. I'll give him that. He looked great.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to take anything away from what he did, but it's week 1, and I pretty much looked at, across the league, and I've seen a lot of fan bases that are overreacting, a lot of people freaking out. I mean, look at the Buffalo Bills. They got their ass handed to them. And, I don't expect to see that from the Buffalo Bills all season. So again, it's week 1. Take it for what it is. You now have game film on your opponents, whoever they may be.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of have to just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think didn't you pick Pittsburgh to win that Buffalo game? I feel like you did.
On that, you know what? And let me bring my picks up, which were, by the way,
I'm pretty sure you picked the Steelers to win that game, so you knew something was cooking up.
My picks were atrocious. And this is why I'm not in a pick'em league this year, man. Because I try to get cute and get that upset special, and it just doesn't really occur.
Right.
I picked the Bills.
Oh, did you? Okay. I got to find out. Somebody picked the Steelers to win that game. That was one of the upsets that kind of shocked me. I didn't get to watch the game from beginning to end, but I really want to know how that transpired, as well as the Cardinals game, as I believe they played the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, Tennessee got that ass handed to them too.
Yeah.
But again, this is
38-13. Yikes.
This is week 1, and it's crazy that people are hanging their hopes on a week 1 victory or loss. It just doesn't make any sense.
People just get excited. We were 6 months without football, so people are kind of jumping the gun on everything. But time to pump the brakes. We're going into week 2. I think starting like week 3, week 4, we should really start to see like who is really going to be legit throughout this regular season.
Yeah, so I missed on the Buffalo Pittsburgh. I missed on that one. I picked Carolina and they won. I got Houston. I got that one right. I blew it on the Tennessee game. The Chargers won. I did pick the Chargers. I had Philly and Indianapolis. I really just knew Indianapolis was going to win that game, and that was my upset special, and they didn't pull through on that. So I missed that one. Cincinnati, I picked Minnesota.
I picked Minnesota as well.
Yeah,
but they went into overtime, and Joe Burrow showed up.
Yep, Joe Burrow showed up. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So any given Sunday, this is week 1. It was just having fun and getting out there, making some picks and that kind of thing. And I really haven't gotten a chance to really look at everything this week. I'm hoping that we'll get some the game film out so I can actually sit down and, get in and look at some of these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, week 2 is I'm pulling up the week 2 schedule real quick.
Yeah, week 2 is going to be wild.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Giants and Washington tomorrow. We got the Raiders, Steelers, 49ers, Eagles.
That's going to be a good game. That's going to be the game to watch. Raiders, Steelers.
Steelers, yeah, 1:00 game on Sunday.
So yeah, most definitely, that's going to be the game to watch. Mm-hmm. Oh, we got a caller. Somebody called in here. Let's see who we got. All right.
Hello.
You are live on Buck What You Heard. Who we got?
Your favorite Alabama fan, Smitty. What's up, y'all?
Roll Tide.
T. Smitty.
Roll down Tide. Okay.
Hey, don't
let y'all know right now.
I don't want to talk about no Alabama now. We're talking Bucks here.
All I'm gonna say is that bet on them if you want to give your wife a nice Christmas present. Bet on them. But man, I got a concern about this team though.
It's week 1, bro.
When you bring everyone back, this is where the coaching comes into play right here. Like, because it had a lot of young guys really step to the forefront last year, the secondary, Devin White, Vita, he can have all the film you want. You can't do nothing with him anyway. Right. But you got tendencies. And the coaching staff, they got to prepare for that. Because I read an article where Arians thought the Cowboys were going to still try to run. Said, bro, you got the number 1 rush defense 2 or 3 years in a row. These teams ain't wasting their time running the ball on you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big adjustment there to just see, especially on defense now when you miss Sean Murphy-Bunting, because people miss when he's gone, the people behind him step up one level higher. And that means they're usually sticking a receiver higher up. Right. And I think that's something that just keep in mind there. It's just they got to, these other teams have a film on them now.
Yeah, I think what I took away from week 1 is that Tom Brady is not gonna, especially with the penalties. There were penalties that just didn't need to occur, but at the same time, there were penalties that weren't being called. I'm not going to get into that. I'm getting more into execution. What it comes down to is execution, making sure you're taking care of business. This is your assignment, not turning the ball over, that kind of thing. These are preseason things, and I'd rather see this week 1, week 2, maybe week 3, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd rather see this now than we get into week 9, week 10 down the road, and then you're talking about, hey, what's going on here?
You guys are right. And one thing, the running game, I know Tom Brady looked good last Thursday, but I don't want my quarterback having to throw 40-plus times a game. No. That's not a good recipe. Yeah. And I think they should stick with Ronald Jones because he's more explosive than Leonard Fournette, in my opinion. To me, he's more of a home run threat. Just feed him. Yeah. He's not a pass catcher. Right. So stop throwing him the damn ball.
Yeah.
That's why we got Giovanni Bernard to be that pass catcher, running back.
So and you're right about that, Ruth. And one thing I like about Bernard more than James White is that you put Bernard in, he still has that threat of running. Right. James White, he's in, you already know you're passing. And I think they need to put him in more as well. Let him run the ball. Not just throw it to him, let him run the ball and have the defense think about that. Then you can set up the passing with him as well.
Yeah. Again, this is week 1. I think you're going to see some adjustments. I'm positive you're going to see some adjustments. I'm just kind of relaxing. I'm enjoying the fact that the Bucks are defending world champions right now. I think they're going to adjust, and I think they'll be just fine, to be honest.
So with Sean Murphy-Bunting possibly being out indefinitely, because first it's been, it's going to be 4 weeks. It could be till the end of the season. Like they're very back and forth on that. Bruce Arians discussed today after practice that he got a second MRI to get more opinions on the dislocated elbow. But does that concern you at all that Sean Murphy-Bunting could probably be out for the season, possibly?
It's got to be next man up. I mean, that's you're sad that you're missing him, but these players got to step up. They're professional football players. They need to go out there and do what they're asked to do,
Right.
in a sense.
Yep.
I get what you're saying. I think one of the big pluses, you got Jordan Whitehead coming back.
He was full and active at practice today, full pads and all.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
And you know, T. Smitty, you're talking to Credential Media here. My girl Ruth here.
The MF Truth.
Yeah.
Hey Gene, I call her Ruth the MF Truth.
I like that. I like that. I gotta somehow get that added on to this chain. I gotta put an MF somewhere.
So what were your takeaways from practice today?
Everybody looked good. Everybody looked relaxed. There was a lot of laughing going on at practice today. Everybody kind of seemed very, I wouldn't say laid back, but they seemed comfortable. And then after talking to Rob Gronkowski after practice, he discussed a lot how everybody's kind of in tune and in sync and on the same page. And that's something that they definitely didn't have until week 8 of last season. So he's anticipating for them to possibly go without losing a game in the next couple of weeks. So they're feeling good. They're feeling rested. They're feeling healthy, and they're ready to get back on the field. I feel really bad for the Falcons.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Go ahead, T. Smitty. I'm sorry.
What? I gotta give that team the Bucs props for this reason. They got a lot of veteran guys, and they still played the preseason. Mm-hmm. And because just think about this. People still get hurt just running drills. So you're going to get hurt anyway, but Tom Brady's all about timing, building that up. And you saw some of these games. Look at the Packers, for example. Although their offensive line's been in shambles, if you watch the NFC Championship game, their coach does nothing to help the offensive line out. So that was easy money for me. But there was no timing because he didn't even show up all season to help work with his guys.
Right.
So that's something right there. So that timing, and even though it's 17 games,
right, one
game can still keep you from the playoffs or going on the road somewhere.
Right.
And so timing is very important.
Yeah, and the professionalism that Tom Brady has shown.
Yep.
When you look at that Dallas game, I promise you, I swear to God, you can go all the way back to 2003. I can't think of a season outside of maybe the Super Bowl season where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win that game with the number of penalties, the number of turnovers, and the way that and the way
they had 4 turnovers, right? 4 turnovers.
Yeah. And think about this. They won that game. They found a way to win that game. So when I look at the Buccaneers and where they are now, I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
That was a good game. Again, week 1. It was a week 1
game.
But
did they find a way to win that game, or did Dallas just find a way to shoot themselves in the foot? No pun intended. Like
Dallas coach is stupid. Dallas.
Dallas. I mean, the clock management was terrible. You don't give the ball back to Brady with a minute and some change left on the clock. You just don't do that.
Yeah, but they did. I mean, they put it up to their defense to get that stop. And again, and this is NFL. If that's what they've got to do. You got those guys on the other side of the ball. They got to get that stop, and it just did not happen. So again, I go back to what I was saying. Tom Brady drove down the field, and they got him in field goal position, and they did what they had to do. So again, like you said, I understand what you're saying. I've never been a Mike McCarthy fan. I always thought that was a freaking joke that he's even done what he's done, but he had Aaron Rodgers. But Mike McCarthy's a yes man for Jerry Jones. No offense to your team, and I promise you, Ruth, as long as Jerry Jones or anything Jones is associated with the Dallas Cowboys, they cannot move forward. You just cannot.
All right, so well, obviously Stephen Jones is going to step into that position once Jerry Jones decides to step down, whenever that might be. I mean, do you think Stephen Jones can make a difference? Like, it's kind of like it's his son,
Yeah, I
tell you why. Jerry Jones wanted to draft Johnny Manziel. Stephen Jones talked him out of it, drafted that Pro Bowl center y'all had. I forgot his name, but that was who he went with instead of Johnny Manziel. So imagine that. I think it might be different. But because Stephen Jones ain't a celebrity,
Yeah.
Does he have a radio show? No. Does anyone even know what he looks like? You know, I think it might be better. Cause my dad's a Cowboys fan, so me and my dad got a pool. Who's gonna quit first, Jerry Jones or Vince McMahon? We got a pool on that.
That is great. I got to get in on that. I got to get in. I got a 5 spot on that one there. I got money on Vince.
Yeah. One thing about I think what happens is turnovers for the Bucks really because of Hail Mary in the end zone at halftime. No one's fault in that one. That just happens. But I'm still mad God will fumble because he messed up my cover there. But I think him and that at the DM. But you know, because the Bucks, they used to play well before Brady got here. They still lost.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to this team. But the one thing I think Dallas messed up on, people don't look at, not just not leaving Brady no time. You may have to leave time. You got to make them burn those timeouts, though.
Right.
Because now you got Brady, who's smart and efficient, with timeouts.
Right.
That's what you got. You got to take those away. And then you take the middle of the field away. And I think that's something that you look at. But I'm cool with this team winning when you're not playing your best. That's a sign of a good team.
Yeah.
And they still will be in the mix no matter what.
Right. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement there. But again, it's week 1. We've seen a lot of miscues and stuff. I expect a lot of this stuff to get cleaned up for week 2. Those are my expectations going in against the Atlanta Falcons. I expect to see more of the run game. I expect them to totally cut out the turnovers, and that's going to be huge. And no more drops. I mean, no more critical. I should say you're going to have drops, but no critical drops, and that's going to be big for me.
Yep, and I'll say this before I run. First, thanks for liking my food picks, Ruth.
Those wings looked amazing. You know what? Real quick, Costco got wings. They're wanting $30 for a 10-pound bag of wings. Out of their fucking minds that they.
Wow, $30 for 10 wings?
10 pounds of wings.
Yeah.
Oh, 10 pounds of wings.
It's a lot.
It used to be like $12, $13.
Yeah.
But anyway, go back. I'm sorry. This sidebar.
But I'll say these quick things before I run. First, I apologize to Grunk. I thought he was heading to the glue factory. I gave him hey, I apologize to him.
Yeah.
But the thing is with him, when people say, "Oh, he got offensive line," Grunk could block a defensive end by himself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's something, and that helped. I don't care what nobody says. Tristan Wirfs is awesome. But you can't tell me that Grunk being there ain't helped them out as well.
Yeah.
And that's what you do for rookies. You put people out there who's been there who can help them out, teach them the nuances, because everybody has talent.
Right.
But the thing is learning how to be a pro, because these guys don't get Tom Brady. If you go by pure talent, you're gonna list a lot of quarterbacks probably ahead of him. Pure talent, God-given talent wise.
Right.
But the mind, the intangibles, all that stuff sets him apart.
Right.
And so that's what happens when you have pros. And I think that's what this team, because I don't know if Kyle Trask's going to be any good, but at least he's in a situation now where he has good coaches who are teachers and players who's pros, who've been pros. And I think that's the one thing that I'm glad about this coaching staff, that they are teachers.
What about Joe Tryon? Joe Tryon is another guy that's benefiting.
He ain't got to play.
Benefiting from all the talent that's around him.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll be right there.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Are you at work?
Yeah. I took a break for a second, but I had to time in, man. But I'll be over your house week 4, Gene.
All right, man. Sounds like a plan, man. We'll have some ribs.
All right, cool. No problem, man. Hey, good job, Ruth. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right.
That's awesome. He had a call while he was at work. He was like, I got to put my 2 cents in real quick.
That's right. That's why, you know what? He's great. And he's right about Gronk. I mean, when you look at Gronk's blocking technique,
I honestly don't think he's going to be used as that blocker the way that we saw last season. I think he's going to be more used on the offensive side. I think he's going to be catching a lot more this season than he was last year. I think now that he's gotten acclimated to the offense, I mean, 2 touchdowns in week 1, that's already setting the tone.
Yep. And you know that there are people that there are defensive coordinators that are looking at that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see OJ Howard. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of him. There, like you said, when you look at that offensive line, I mean that offensive side of the ball, there's so much talent there. It's just hard to know who's going to be able to come in, or who you're looking at, or who you may not be looking at. I mean, they could be game planning for these guys, and you could see totally another set of guys out there. Scotty Miller.
Throw him a curveball.
You didn't see much of Scotty Miller. You could see Scotty Miller on a go route, and Atlanta won't know what to do.
Right, exactly.
So again, it just depends on how they have everything lined up. And this is a long season. And I think that no matter who you like, whether it's Leonard Fournette, whether it's Ronald Jones or whoever, you're going to see your guy on the field at some point in time.
Right. Absolutely. And congratulations to Mickens for making it back onto the active roster for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And congratulations to Bradley Pinion for winning Special Teams Player of the Week. Great accomplishment. He played an awesome game. I mean, I think he punted 3 times and had them like under the 10-yard line. So he made it difficult for the Cowboys for sure. I mean, at one point we had Dak in first down while he was in the Tampa's like end zone. So great job punting for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to Mickens, if this turns out to be consistently how he plays, there may be a Jaden Mickens apology tour with me leading the charge here, because I had pretty much given up on him. And the way he ran, when he would get the ball, he knew his spot, he ran and he ran through. There were so many times last year that I saw Mickens catch the ball, think about what he's going to do, which takes
too much time.
It takes too much time, and we've seen a totally different Jaden Mickens. And if we could see more of that, I mean, I'd be surprised. I'd be happy with it.
Yeah.
The one thing that again, kind of going back to special teams, is they've got to make them tackles. The Bucs special teams have got to. When you get to that point of attack, you've got to consistently make those tackles.
Right, and we saw that. We saw them struggle with that in the it was Saints.
The Saints game, especially.
Saints game. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they almost ran it back for. I think they did run it back for a touchdown one time.
Yeah, one got called back.
Oh,
yeah, and I think somebody got hurt. I think the guy that was running, Harris, is it Harris? Harris that was running it back. But yeah, it's just scary, and that's something they've got to clean up as well. But like I said, it was week 1. We got a sample size of what the Bucs can do, which is good. And a lot of the problems that they're having are coachable. I don't think that these guys don't have the physical tools. I just think that these things are coachable, and they have to get this stuff fixed and cleaned up if they're going to continue to defend.
Being around Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, they are locked in. Like they don't even want to talk to media. They don't want to ask, when people ask questions that don't have to do with the upcoming matchup that they have, they don't even spend time answering the question. They're like, we're focused on Atlanta. We don't care what happened against Dallas. We're moving on to the next week. And that's a great mentality to have. And they're locked in on this season.
Next game up.
Yep.
So are you ready? When is the next press conference for you?
Tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and rumor has it that we're gonna have an opportunity to talk to Tom Brady tomorrow. So I'm very excited.
So you got all your questions and everything lined up.
I got nothing. I like to go off the dome. I like to just kind of feel the room and it just comes out naturally. I don't like to go in with a game plan, because then when it doesn't work out, then I'm kind of like, oh well, I wasted my time putting a game plan together, So I'm just gonna ask him questions on their upcoming matchup and try not to dwell too much on the past, because I know the guy's tired of talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So very exciting stuff. And
Bud said you got Brady butterflies. So there must be some truth to that, but it's all good. I probably would too. I mean, the guy he's the GOAT. You're muted. I think you're muted. You're muted.
My first practice at the Advent Health training facility, he probably was like maybe 10 yards from me, and I know it was like 100 degrees out there, but my palms were sweating. I couldn't even grip my camera. Like, it was getting pretty bad. I was like, what the heck? He's not even looking my direction. Like, Ruth, calm down.
Well, hey, before we get out of here, I want you to look at the schedule and give me the scores of some of these games that, what you think is going to happen here.
All right. Let's start with this Thursday night game. We have the Giants and Washington mañana. After seeing the Giants struggle against Denver pretty bad, I want to say that the Washington football team is going to pull that one off. They are playing at home, so that's going to be a great matchup, but I think Washington will win. Raiders, Steelers, I want to say Raiders just because I think Derek Carr was lights out on the Monday Night Football game. I mean, he definitely had some slip-ups towards the end of the game, but I have a feeling the Raiders are going to pull that one up. They're going to upset the Steelers in their home field. Then we got the Philadelphia Eagles 49ers. I want to say it was a fluke that the Falcons really played that bad against Philadelphia. So I want to say the 49ers are going to get that one done. Texans, Browns, not even a question. Broncos, Jags. I want to say Broncos just because Tyrod Taylor played really well. Did you watch the Broncos game by any chance?
Oh, yeah, Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know why I said Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is playing for the Texans.
Yeah, Texans.
Yes. Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, steady Teddy. I think he's in a good place right now.
Yeah.
For me, I'm actually going to take Denver.
Yeah,
game.
Denver on that one. Then we got Saints, Panthers. Panthers playing at home. I want to say that Jameis is going to keep this momentum going. I think that they're going to upset the Panthers. Then we got the LA Rams and Colts. I want to say Rams. I don't believe in Carson Wentz. I think that he's going to struggle for Indianapolis. Bills, Dolphins. I want to say Bills. I hope the Bills can get it together. I think the Dolphins played pretty well. I think Tua Tagovailoa showed a little glimpse of improvement from the last year. We got New England Patriots visiting the Jets. Patriots are going to take that one. Bengals, Bears. Bears should win that game because they're playing at home. Falcons, Buccaneers. Obviously, the Bucs are going to totally annihilate the Falcons. Vikings, Cardinals. I'm going to say Cardinals because they're playing at home, and Minnesota losing to the Bengals over the weekend was not expected. Titans, Seahawks. I'm going to pick the Seahawks. I think Russell looked really well. They were on the road last week, if I'm not mistaken. Who did they play?
Who's that?
Oh, they played the Colts they played on the road and they won. So I have Seattle upsetting the Titans at home. Cowboys, Chargers. The Cowboys better win. Very bad news about DeMarcus Lawrence being out indefinitely with a foot injury, a broken foot due to practice today. But they should pull a win on the road. Chiefs, Ravens. Ooh, who you got for that? Chiefs, Ravens.
I got the Chiefs.
You got the Chiefs? All right. Yeah, I got the Chiefs too. I mean, Lamar, I'm back and forth with Jackson. And then we got Lions, Packers. So Green Bay, Monday Night Football against Detroit. You guys have no reason to not win that game. If you do lose that game, then it's obvious that Aaron Rodgers is not playing to win.
Yeah. I've got Detroit on that one. As far as to me, my game of the week is going to be the Bills Dolphins game. I did not realize
that's a really big divisional matchup right there.
They hate each other. I did not, and I look at some of the rivalries around the league. I had no idea the level of hatred where I had a Bills podcaster on, and I swear most of the people in the chat were Miami fans, and they were just like stopped in to talk crazy to this guy, and it was just crazy just watching them go back and forth. That rivalry that's a legit rivalry. So yeah. I'm looking at the Bills Mafia to bounce back on that one there personally. One of the other games outside of that game that I'm actually really looking forward to is probably going to be the Vikings versus the Cardinals, because I really want to know if Kyler Murray is the real deal. I've heard so many people talk trash about this guy because he's short, short man syndrome, this and that. But at the same time, he's got some quality wide receivers and he's got help on defense, and they're playing pretty good. But again, it was all week one, so week two kind of an unknown. We're still trying to figure out who's the contenders and pretenders.
Yeah.
Before we go, real quick, last thing, because I meant to ask you about this. I'm going to go through a list of teams, and I want you to tell me, based on week one, are they contenders or pretenders? And we'll come back to this. So, first team, the Buffalo Bills, are they contenders or pretenders? Meaning, will they go to the playoffs? And
they're contenders.
Okay.
They're going back to the playoffs. I actually have the Bills upsetting the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and facing the Bucs in the Super Bowl.
There you go. All right. Cleveland Browns, contenders or pretenders?
Contenders. I mean, Baker, come on. If you guys they could have pulled off that upset. Nick Chubb looked great. Jarvis Landry looked great. They have a lot of offensive weapons. I mean, Myles Garrett is one of the best D linemen ever. So they're contenders for sure.
All right. Washington football team.
Contenders.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Pretenders.
LA Rams.
Contenders.
Miami Dolphins. Did you see that?
That's such a tough division. I want to say contenders. I have a feeling that Tua Tagovailoa can keep it together, and they might be able to make it to the playoffs this season.
This is going to be a good game right here. This is going to be a great indicator one way or the other. Buffalo versus Miami. It's just going to be a good indicator for that division. And
they'll set the tone for sure.
Yeah, they're going to set the tone for the rest of the year, this game right here.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys.
Contenders.
Seattle Seahawks.
I have the Rams winning that division, but I have Seattle taking the wild. Oh, man, that's tough because I want the Cardinals to make it to the playoffs. I want to say contenders just because, I mean, you got to put respect on their names. How long consistently have they been in the playoffs? I want to say contenders. Titans stink. Go Chargers.
Last but not least, the New England Patriots, contenders or pretenders?
Contenders. Bill Belichick spent way too much money to be pretenders.
Oh, man, they got a tough division, though.
They do.
Really tough division. I think the Jets are probably the only bye that they'll have. I mean, look at it. But again, I see it's going to be a fight between Miami and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Who wins that division?
Okay. So are you discounting New England? Yeah, even after all the changes, after getting rid of Cam Newton, no distractions for Mac Jones.
No, I'm not 100% sold on New England.
Okay. I respect that. Didn't they just lost to Miami too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a tough one to watch, but make sure everybody looks out. I saw that somebody asked in the comments about
what's up with that. What up with that?
Yeah, well, we've been working hard on it. Rob Graphics, guys, make sure you look him up on Twitter if you guys need some videography, any type of images. He will get you. He finally finished our intro because me and Christina were going back and forth. We made all these different changes, so we finished our intro. Right now, we're working on like the border and stuff for when we get on StreamYard and things like that. But we should be good to go this Friday.
Get me his link. Link me. Can you link me up with him? I
thought. Because I remember that you posted a tweet about needing somebody for graphics, and I tagged him in that tweet.
Yeah, okay, I know who you're talking about. We kind of talked, but we kind of lost touch. So yeah, I'll get back in touch with him.
He's good, and he's very decently priced. He's good.
All right.
But yeah, Bucks Babes should be airing live this Friday, right after Bucks What You Heard. So make sure to look out for that. Christina and I, Tampa Sports Bay, are putting a podcast together just to talk about Bucks and the NFC South. So look out for that.
I'm liking that. Maybe
I'm excited.
I'm going to crash your show.
You better.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Normally when I have guests, it's kind of hard for me to focus on the chat. I try to. Next Wednesday, I'll be able to spend a little bit more time, kind of talking about, what's going on in the chat. So I'll make sure that I get you guys on here and get to hear from you.
And I'll definitely call into the show on Friday to let you know how practice went tomorrow and Friday's practice. I'll give you some insight on that.
That is perfect. And you've got the number, and whenever you're ready to call in, and we'll make it happen.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Everybody have a good evening.